like Paul Rudd always did on the Conan O'Brien show. You should lead up to it like you're gonna show it.
Oh yeah, and then just show
And
that
show
clip.
the clip from Mac and Me.
I actually never knew what that was from.
It's from Mac and Me. It was a movie made by McDonald's. It was terrible.
That Alien movie?
Yeah, it was like sponsored by McDonald's and Coke.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Mac and Me, McDonald's. It's like blatant promotion of McDonald's
I never
throughout
saw
the whole
it.
thing.
I never saw it.
I watched some YouTube commentary on it.
Weird.
I've never seen the whole movie. It's definitely weird. But yeah, it's pretty terrible movie.
I mean, yeah, there's lots of good movies that I think are. I mean, lots of weird movies that I think are good. But
it's like the what is it called? The one, the video game one, the Nintendo one.
The Wizard.
The Wizard.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that.
Yeah.
It's like blatant promotion.
I love the Power Glove.
Except it's for McDonald's and Coke.
It's so bad.
Yeah. Like the aliens' like obsession is with drinking Coke.
Ah.
You know.
Okay.
And like they're at McDonald's a ton and talking about McDonald's and Big Macs and
nice.
Yeah.
Funny. All right.
Anyway, you ready to do a pencast?
Yeah. Are
Number
you?
105. Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Excellent. Yeah, I saw
I'm
you
ready.
out there kind of relaxing out in nature.
I was.
Are you centered now?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I was eating some vegetables.
There you go. Looking at the woods.
Amongst other vegetables.
Looking at all those trees, being like, I could cut all y'all down.
I was thinking about that a little bit. I was like, I have the capability.
That's it.
And the ability.
There we go.
And the skill. Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right.
Let's start this thing off, shall we?
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 105 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. I am Brian Goulet.
I'm Drew Brown.
And we are here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casually and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, we're going to be talking about gifts for fountain pen enthusiasts that aren't pens or ink, which is cool.
Nobody wants those.
We like some restrictions. Why pen companies no longer make the pens of their vintage glory days. If pens really need to be cleaned before their first use. Hot take. The proper way to loosen your filler knob on a vacuum pen. I'll share some leadership advice. And Drew was going to show off his denim jacket, but he forgot it. But we'll talk about that. Not really. And we'll take a look at the TWSBI VAC Mini. Technically VAC Mini AL, but you know, same thing. Yeah. So, Drew, I wrote a little line in here, scripted it out a little bit. So if you could read your part.
Oh, Shirley, it's time for feedback now.
That's right, Drew. And don't call me Shirley.
Oh, that was delightful.
I couldn't help myself.
I
went down like a Naked Gun rabbit hole. And
that's
Leslie Nielsen
yeah.
and all
We've
this
got
kind
a
of
lot
stuff.
of feedback on that actually, so it's timely.
Yeah.
So this week
airplane, that was
in the section where we're told how to pronounce things, we were talking about cassis or cassis, whether or not
I'm sure we got that wrong.
No, you were right. It is cassis. You do put the S in there.
Okay.
It's actually French for
It's like a flower or something?
No, it's that. Oh my God, I read about it already. Black. Oh my God. Anyway,
black holes, black tar, black bears.
No. Anyway, all right. So yeah, it's pronounced cassis. I'll yell it halfway through the show.
Okay.
But yeah, and I have to. I was mentioning how my favorite Tim Curry performance was.
Oh, I think I know what it is, but I'm not going to tell you.
Blackcurrant.
I'm gonna make you remember.
Blackcurrant.
Yeah, it's like a drink made from like liqueur or something like that. Yeah,
it's French for blackcurrant.
There you go. Good job, you remembered it.
Yeah, I just popped in there. So I mentioned how my favorite Tim Curry performance was his random performance in Congo, and no one but my friend Lawrence Willis on YouTube decided to jump in and bring me some quotes on that one, and I just have to give Lawrence a shout out because he mentioned "Stop eating my sesame cake," and then his next comment was, "Push me, please. Harder, please." Because there's a scene with actor Delroy Lindo, who's also fantastic, and he does not like Tim Curry's character.
Okay.
And he's just sitting there having a meeting, and Tim Curry's like, little finger cake, and starts eating it. And he just pauses his conversation that he's having with the other guy, and looks at him and says, "Mr. Homilka, stop eating my sesame cake." And he's just like, and he starts yelling, like, "Stop eating my sesame cake!" And I love that so much. My brothers and I quote that all the time. Every time it pops up on Instagram, like we send it to each other. It just is so funny. And Lawrence just is like, my brother, thank you so much.
That's awesome.
That speaks to me, my soul. And then he has to get pushed out of a plane because he won't jump, and that's what he says. So anyway, that made me so happy. I love the comment section so much. And then finally, Disc 2000, which apparently is some AI intelligence from the 90s,
It's all right.
says, please mention the Con 70 converter when you mention the Kakuno. I feel like the world needs to know about this hack. Well, absolutely it does. It's not a hack, though. It's simply the Kakuno is a $14 and something pen that happens to fit the larger Con 70 converter. So it is absolutely a feature and certainly should be mentioned when talking about the Kakuno because that is a cool little feature that it has. But
Kakuno and the Explorer both.
Yeah, you don't
affordable pens that fit the Con 70.
There we go. You don't need to hack them. You just pop it in.
Yeah, it literally fits.
So the Kakuno doesn't come with a converter. It just comes with the cartridge. So the Con 70 definitely worth considering. Half the price of the pen, but still worthy fit for sure. But that's for me.
Cool. All right. Excuse me. I got one from Bujo and Bizus. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Bisu. This is, in fact, my first Pencast episode. I'm the person that started on episode 104.
We were joking last week about surely no one is listening to this for the first time.
There can't be. But
there we go. We got at least one.
Bujo, I see you. We'll see if Bujo came back for 105. That'll be the real test.
Well, that's clearly why I put this in here. I'm like, hey, we could talk about you. You got to keep coming back. Maybe we'll do it again.
I could see someone being like, man, they didn't even answer 5 questions. They just answered 4 and rolled on like it was nothing. And it was still 2 hours. Don't know if y'all caught that last week, but that totally happened. We just totally missed it. Whoops. But we filled the time anyway. Anyway, let's see here. What else? Jace3604 says, trees are very strong. Yes, Brian. I don't remember the context of that.
You were talking about how difficult it is to dig up a tree by hand.
Oh, yeah. Like stumps and stuff, especially. Yeah, they are very strong. I don't know if Jace agrees with me or
I think he's been sarcastic. Like, of course trees are strong.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I deserve that. But also said, thank you for the trigger to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. I don't know what triggered that.
I didn't think you did, but I wanted to discuss it anyway because I feel like...
Did I say something like from the movie without knowing it? Because I've not seen any Lord of the Rings or read the books.
There's a scene where the trees basically come to life and, attack an army. So
Okay. I want to say I've probably seen that clip.
Yeah.
It's probably like a pretty epic battle scene.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
But it could also be something nightmare-inducing for somebody who regularly goes into the woods and slaughters them.
I don't know. I think that sounds kind of fun.
They might. The reason they were angry was because
were they getting cut down?
The orcs of Saruman started cutting down the trees to build his fortresses and his weapons and his fires and everything like that. And when the trees found out what he did, they all rallied together and attacked him.
I definitely know what you're talking about.
Just saying, you got to be careful going into the woods, Brian.
You know what movie made me feel really bad about cutting trees down was The Lorax.
Oh yeah,
I've read the book, but also the movie. I watched the movie recently. Ed Helms is great, but very very heartbreaking.
Fern Gully too.
Oh yeah,
yet another Tim Curry special.
I haven't.
You could release Tim Curry's Hexus.
Did I? I can't remember if I've seen Fern Gully. If I did, it was so long ago.
Well, if you've seen Dances with Wolves or Pocahontas or Avatar or Last Samurai, you've also seen it. So
okay, well, I like all those. Yeah.
They're all interchangeable.
Yeah, gotcha.
Same exact story.
Same plot, different characters. Yeah. That's cool. All right, let's see here. Patricia Rebel. Here we go. Hey, Brian, our family's favorite movie with plenty of snark is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Enjoy. Ooh, yeah. That is a good one.
Have your kids seen that one yet?
They haven't seen that one. I don't know. Not that it would be totally inappropriate, but I don't know if they would get a lot of the humor in it.
Archer liked it.
Yet. Really?
Yeah, apparently he watched it at after school or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen it in a long time. Maybe I need to see it again.
Yeah.
But I always remember enjoying it.
Yeah, it's solid.
Except for the car at the end breaks my freaking heart.
Yeah.
I know it's not a real car that they crashed. It was a replica or whatever, but still. That and Casino Royale, James Bond, Scarred for Life, when he flips the Aston Martin, and I'm just like, why? Why do they need to totally dramatically destroy the car?
Because in that movie, Q wasn't there to say bring it back in one piece.
I don't know. It seemed unnecessary to me. It was not central to the plot in any way in James Bond.
But it broke a record for flips.
It did. I remember being very shocked by that. Anyway, but Ferris Bueller, it was very central to kind of the story. So that made more sense. Anyway, let's see here. Kimberly Huffman says, Brian, Christmas Vacation is PG-13, but it is a very good comedy. has aged way better than the OG Vacation. Thank you for yet another entertaining podcast. Pencast. Yeah, I agree. I've seen both of those. I'm not like what is it? The National Lampoon. That's like that whole series or whatever. I'm not like a fanboy of that, but I've appreciated it.
Yeah, I mean, there's each
it's got its moments.
Yeah. Each one is on its different level of enjoyability.
Yeah.
You definitely have Christmas Vacation up at the top.
Yeah.
And then Original Vacation, and then Vegas, and then several thousand steps below it is European.
I think I've seen Vegas more times than all of the other ones combined.
That one probably got more TV play.
It was on TV more at a time when I had no other means of watching things.
Yeah.
So I just happened to watch that more.
It's solid.
They have a cool car in that one too. I think they have Viper.
They have a bunch, at the end.
Yeah. They have like several cars.
There's a Hummer, a Viper, a couple other ones,
I like that. I seem to remember movies that had cars
in them, yeah.
I was very obsessed with cars when I was younger and still like them. Anyway, let's talk about some new stuff, shall we?
New stuff?
Yeah, new stuff. Okay, I didn't look at the new stuff list at all ahead of time, so I'm going to read your list, Drew, and hopefully we can add commentary here together. We got the Esterbrook Canvas pen cases. Got 3 colors: tan, navy, and army green. These are pretty cool. They're they're not like a totally non-leather version. They have like a suede kind of on the inside. So, we were kind of hoping that they would be like a leather alternative, but they still have leather in them. But if you are okay with that, it's actually really cool.
They're really cool.
They're really nice. So I like the texture of it. It's that very like rugged feeling texture. It feels like the kind of thing you could like throw around in a rucksack.
And they're going to get weathered too.
Yeah, they're going to get beat up over time, which I think is cool. So yeah, we got a single, we've got a 20 pen case and a 49 pen case.
No, it's just a 40. Did I write that?
You wrote 49.
Yep.
I was like, that is kind of weird.
That is weird.
But it's a 40 pen case.
I was trying to Ron Burgundy you.
It worked. I just said exactly what you wrote. Anyway, so $18, $80, and $100 is how much those are. Which $100 for a 40 pen case, especially one of that like sturdiness, is pretty good.
It's really interesting because we do have a 40 case from Galen Leather, but it's in a very wide sort of like, it's like encyclopedia, looking thing. This one is much more thin, but it's also long. So it will fit in a standard messenger bag from what I've experienced.
It's like a restaurant menu.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really just a different format. I think they're both great pen cases.
They are. But depending on what your storage preference is, one will be better than the other.
I still miss the Girologio 96 pen case.
I bet you do. You were saddened when you found out we discontinued those.
I know. I have a couple of them. But anyway, I won't talk about that because we don't have many more. All right. We also have the Esterbrook SD Punch.
That's a beautiful pink SD.
Yeah. Pink SD.
Pink flecked.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. I think it's good. I'm not necessarily always like diehard about pink pens. Very hit or miss for me.
Yeah, it's got a good depth to it, though.
Yeah. Extra fine, and medium nibs. These are going to be stainless steel nibs, but they also have some custom nib grinds.
They do.
So the Scribe, Journaler, Needlepoint, and the Techo from our favorite nib grinding friends.
Yay!
And then we also, that's 176 for those pens, by the way. Are they more for the specialty nibs? They must be.
I think so.
They've got to be, yeah. So those will be over 200. And then last but not least, we have the Lamy Scala fountain pen. This is the special edition, limited edition. Not sure what it's called.
One of those.
I think it's special edition. I don't think they really do like they do numbered limiteds rarely.
It's what we're calling it on the website.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whatever we call it, it's an edition.
Yeah.
But Majestic Jade is this one. Now the Scala is not like a super popular pen, but if you're an accidental collector like me, you can put this one on your radar. $296 for this one. This is going to have a gold nib on it. So that is cool. The 14K Lamy gold nibs are awesome.
They're lovely.
Especially the mediums and broads. I love just how like juicy and bouncy and smooth they are. Yeah. Anyway.
Those are good ones.
Yeah. That's what I got. What about you?
All right. So I want to talk about inks, containers of ink.
Yeah.
For a little bit because we've got 4 new Sailor Shikiori ink.
Oh yeah.
And it's been a bit confusing for me. So
it's been confusing for all of us.
It's been confusing, yeah. So I wanted to just kind of set the record straight.
Yeah.
For starters, it's $18. We've got 4 new inks available, bottles of ink available. The naming convention is a little strange because they're combining this. They're saying that's a Shikiori ink, but also a Japanese Fairy Tales ink. Japanese Fairy Tales being a model, a collection of the Pro Gear Slim that they came out prior to now. These are companion inks to go with it, but the companion inks are Shikiori inks to go with the Fairy Tale pens. So it's Shikiori Japanese Fairy Tale. Yeah.
That is confusing.
It is confusing. So what also is confusing is on a lot of other websites, they're listing these as just having the English name, which are Crane Quill, Princess's Headdress, Magpies, and Forbidden Treasure Chest. However, on the bottles and boxes themselves, they make no mention of the English version of the name.
Yeah.
So if you order from us, we're going to do our best to have both of the names, the Japanese name and the English name, in the product description. If you order from somewhere else and you get it and it doesn't say that anywhere, it's okay. Google it. You'll find that, it is the right thing probably. But anyway, Kazakiribane is Crane Quill, and that is supposed to pair with the Grateful Crane Pro Gear Slim. And Subakarashi is the Princess's Headdress, and that pairs with the Princess Kayuga pen. And then Kasasagi is Magpies, same thing, and that is going to be pairing with the Vega pen. And then finally, Tamatobako is Forbidden Treasure Chest, and that is going to be paired with the Dragon Palace Pro Gear Slim. So there we go. We're going to try to have that all up on our website because it is a lot to remember. And, being frank, the colors don't particularly match very well with the pens. So
they don't make any sense
you can't,
in relation to the pens.
You can't really look at the ink and say, oh, well, that clearly matches with this. That their intention is to complement the colors with the colors. So take that for what it is.
It's more of a pairing than it is a match.
Exactly. So
that's the way to think of it.
That was their intention. You be the judge. They're available.
Just like you would have like a red wine with a steak.
There you go.
You're not having steak flavored wine.
Or a red steak, necessarily.
Exactly. A wine soaked steak.
Right.
That could get weird.
Unless you have soft teeth.
Well, I catch that office reference.
Okay. So anyway, those are the new Shikiori inks. I'll include links in the description of this video for all the products that we talk about today, so check that out. And then finally, we've got a new Retro 51 Tornado Rollerball available, and that one is going to be the Pan American Clipper Retro pen. At $66, this pen is very much themed to look like an old Pan American jetliner. So if you appreciate that kind of vintagey Pan Am vibe, this pen is going to do that for you. For a while, I know that the Travelers Company had a whole set of Pan Am themed Travelers accessories. So if you still have any of that laying around, this would be a great companion piece for that.
It would.
Or if you're just a fan of like the shuttle pens and the jet pens and stuff like that, this one can fit into that collection as well.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's it. New stuff.
Awesome. All right. Let's take some questions, shall we?
Some Qs.
All right, let's do it.
All right. First off,
sorry,
Thomas Plockinger is asking us a question that probably has been asked countless times, according to him. No, I don't think so. Thomas wants to know about gifts for fountain pen enthusiasts that are not pens nor ink.
We do get questions a lot about gifts. They're not as many as you would think. A lot of people in the fountain pen world are pretty specific about what they want. So they'll often tell people in their life, significant others or friends or whatever, what gifts that they want. And then those people come and buy it for them. But there are some people that like to just give gifts. So if you have a fountain pen enthusiast in your life, you want to gift a pen, if you want to give something that's not a pen or ink, I do have some suggestions. Paper! I'm just kidding, but not really. I mean, you could definitely get paper. It's consumable. People that write with fountain pens probably like to write on nice paper too. It's part of the experience. So something like, if you know nothing about what they generally write with, something like a top staple bound Rhodia pad, A5 size, A4 size, pretty much going to be a safe bet. Everybody can find a use for like a small tearaway pad, just use it in your kitchen or whatever. Take notes by your desk. That's pretty safe bet. Maybe some journals or something too if you want. That's a little more of a gamble because people can get specific about their journals. I know you're a big fan of the Marmon Nemosini.
And I do love that brand, but I never get excited about buying paper.
How do you say that again? It wasn't Nemosini. It was you asked
Nemosine.
Nemosine. There we go. Okay. Marmon Nemosine.
And as much as I like having good paper, I never want to buy it. Whenever I'm checking out on our website, it's not hard for me to add stuff. but it's not like I have had paper in there and then ended up removing the paper in favor of more like pen and ink centric things. And
well, to be fair, like we have a lot of notebooks. Like we do decent paper.
We do, but
so you have access to a lot of it.
I do, but I still have stuff at home that I keep personally.
That's true.
But I sometimes we're like, I don't really need a paper. It doesn't get me excited.
Yeah.
So when I'm given paper, I'm like, I appreciate
that's
this.
like, to me, that's like the perfect kind of gift.
Yeah.
Something that you would appreciate but wouldn't want to buy yourself.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Now, some people get very excited about paper. I'm not one of those person.
Yeah, that's okay.
People's.
I think pen cases are good too. We mentioned like the Esterbrook ones; those are pretty new. People who have a lot of pens can often find a use for pen cases. So those are good. Aston, Girologio, Esterbrook, Franklin Christoph. We have lots of good options for pen cases. You will have to make your own determination about which one's the size, all that kind of stuff. But something small like a single slip or a double, triple, something like that. Somebody can always find a use for those. Let's see here. Traveling inkwells like the Pineider or the Visconti. Those are cool. It never hurts to have, multiples of those too, if you want to carry a couple pens and travel with them and stuff like that. I know I personally will keep one inked with like one ink all the time. And even if I'm not traveling, kind of keeping it at home for like vac-fillers and stuff like that. It's a great way to load those suckers up. So having a couple of those is never a bad idea.
That's what I was going to say. Like just because they have traveling in the name doesn't mean they're just for traveling. They're great for the desk because they get you a full fill every time if you're using something with an internal filler.
Exactly. I think anything in like the cleaning and tuning accessory area is great because a lot of those can be consumables as well. So, might be something that needs to be replaced eventually, even if they already have it, or if they don't have it, might enhance their experience a little bit, or just having duplicates, bulb syringes, ink syringes, stuff like that. You can kind of never have too many of those, in my opinion. Brass sheets, silicone grease, feed brushes, you can always find a good use for those, but not your teeth. The feed brush is not meant for teeth.
Big disclaimer there.
Yep.
Who knows?
Stickers. There's some stickers too. We've got, I'm mentioning things that we sell.
You're kind of listing all of the accessories at this point.
Well, I think they're all great items. I actually didn't list them all. There's more. There's micro mesh, there's loops, there's all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
O-rings.
Definitely buy O-rings.
Yeah.
If you want to disappoint your friend.
That's right. Here, I got you some small rubber rings. What are these for? Anyway, stickers are fun. I think the Girologio writing mat. We got one of those right here.
Oh, yeah, those are handy.
It's kind of fun. They're not too expensive, and it's kind of thing that like most people probably wouldn't maybe necessarily buy themselves. Last but not least, gift cards. If you just completely run out of ideas, a gift card to a specific place that somebody likes to shop is always cool.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
and has a little bit more thought behind it than like a Visa card or something like that,
right.
or a Target card.
Yeah.
Shows like, hey, I know a little bit about you at least.
Right.
Might not know what you want, but I know where you can get it.
Yeah. There you go. So those are my ideas.
Yeah, I second your inkwell idea. In fact, I want to make sure that I mentioned the Ink Miser. I think that's an often overlooked product.
That's one of the accessories that I did not name.
Yeah. I think that gets overlooked a lot, and it's really, really handy to have. I like the...
you like the standalone one or the one in bottle?
I like the standalone one. It's just more versatile. And the standalone one is great because I like to use that with ink samples because a lot of pens don't fit in the ink sample vial. So just dumping one of those into an ink shot makes it easy to fill with any pen. So it's like
cool.
$6 or something like that. Totally worth it. And again, not something someone's going to get excited about buying, but when they have one, it's a game changer. So and then they might already have a bulb syringe, but I know you mentioned that, but it's always bulb syringes. I buy bulb syringes for anybody who's using a fountain pen. It is such a cheap way to enhance somebody's fountain pen experience because cleaning is the most miserable part of the entire hobby.
Yeah.
So make it a little bit better for them.
Yeah. And I like having multiples of those. Any like cleaning supply or like ink syringes, that type of stuff, I always want multiples because I don't want to have to bring them places.
Yeah.
Places that I go all the time. Like I have at home, have it at work. If I'm traveling, I might keep some in my backpack. So I have multiples of all these things.
And eventually those bulb syringes can get a little moldy inside if they trap moisture. So we've had them split before, and then we've looked inside and be like, ooh, this is not
you can
good.
clean them out.
Yeah, you definitely want to pay attention to that.
If you like flush them out with like a bleach, that would probably help with that. Yeah. But who's thinking about maintenance for their bulb syringe?
Yeah, or you just buy another one. Usually they split or break before they get super nasty, but it's something to keep an eye out on.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to mention before we move on to the next question is if you wanted a free ink sample this week.
Oh, you're putting it towards the beginning here. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit toward the beginning.
All right.
If you wanted, so what I did was I talked to Adrian, our customer care manager, who had the idea of, you know what, when you're giving away these ink ideas, maybe talk to the team and see like, hey, what you're writing with that you're kind of into right now. So I said, well, Adrian, what are you into right now? And she said she's super into Phantom of the Opera by Waringal. So if you wanted to try Adrian's current obsession, Phantom of the Opera by Waringal, type in opera, O-P-E-R-A, in all caps in the coupon section of the checkout page if you happen to be ordering between now and next Pencast. So Friday today, which is
the
15th probably, up until the following week. We'll go through midnight, but if you happen to be already checking out, you'll have to buy at least one other thing to qualify for this, but it'll be there if you want to give it a try. So opera, O-P-E-R-A.
Cool. Drew, I got a question for you.
What's your question, Brian?
This is from r.chattergfuller561.
Okay.
Why do some fountain pen companies deliberately damage their glory by not making old vintage models that are glorious writers? We got double glory going on in this question.
Well, my.
We got some strong feelings about this one.
Yeah, Chatterjee is, I will say that deliberately damaging their glory is some severe language.
Yeah,
but
it's like self-sabotage.
I get where you're coming from. There are a couple ways we could dissect this. First of all, I think it needs to be mentioned that most of these golden age fountain pen companies who were around when these glorious pens were being made are either no longer around or have been sold and resold several times, and they simply don't have the means to produce these pens. They're no longer in the original factories. They're no longer in the original countries that they were in. And they literally could not make these if they wanted to, because their resources are completely different, and their connection to the...
Well, one could argue if they had just kept making the Glory Day pens that they made,
right?
Would they have gone down that path?
We can talk more about that too.
The answer is yes, probably.
Yes.
But.
So I want to address the deliberately damaging aspect here. So if you wanted to word it that way, the only deliberate portion of any of this would have been the initial decision to go ahead and sell their companies. And this likely happened due to the fact that the glorious pens were no longer being purchased at the level that they were in the aforementioned glory days. So they had their glory days for sure, but when the ballpoint came out, people stopped using them as a utility, and sales declined, forcing these U.S. Manufacturing facilities to shutter their windows. And, it was a big deal. Small towns, suffered because of it. It just like a lot of manufacturing jobs did back then. And the fountain pen industry was no exception. So they had to shut things down just because of sales. They, people were moving on to a different thing. And then they sold their name, their licenses, their intellectual property rights to other companies. And if they did continue making stuff, they started being picked up by other factories, other larger companies, either being made at their factories or, kind of sending things overseas. A lot of these brands just kind of went dormant, eventually, sold their names to other overseas companies. But that was the only deliberate part. The only deliberate part was them having to sell. And honestly, most of them didn't really have a choice. Like, they weren't making enough money to have a profitable business any longer. And the pens that they were making just simply weren't being bought at the level they needed to be bought for them to stay in business. Yeah. So that was the deliberate part. They had to sell.
When I think about too, like especially like bigger companies like, Waterman, Parker, some of the ones that were like iconic of the day. Once, you mentioned ballpoints. Once like ballpoints and roller balls became more of a thing, they also made those pens. Yeah. So when that becomes more of their mainstay and fountain pen sales dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and then these are larger companies, maybe they sell a lot of other things besides just pens too. They could be part of a conglomerate, or maybe they get bought by a larger conglomerate, and they're told that it's going to stay the same, but of course it doesn't, because it can't. And stuff happens over time. I don't know that it's necessarily deliberate on like the majority of people's parts who are at these companies.
And if it is deliberate, it's deliberate by way of necessity, like so that their company can survive and they can.
Or just deliberate by choice because whoever buys it it's not as big of a deal for them.
Oh yeah, for the people who buy it, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of times when people refer to these older pens as, the best of the best, they're talking about the vintage nibs, and they are different. They do feel different, no doubt about that. The writing with a vintage nib is something special and very, very enjoyable. But in order for any modern fountain pen company to reproduce those, the machines are different. They don't have the same resources in a multitude of ways. But you're not just talking about taking the nibs that they have and shaping them differently. You're talking about sourcing a different type of gold. And it's not simply about, they can't just use the gold that they currently have. We're talking from a metallurgical level. They would need to completely change the composition of the gold that they're working with. Like even the steel is different. The gold is different. The materials that they were using for those vintage pens, nibs, are not the same materials. Like gold is not gold. There are a lot of different components to it.
Yeah, they're not like pure gold. They're alloys.
Right, but even the alloys are completely different. Like, we don't know enough about that to really get into the nitty-gritty metallurgical levels.
To be dangerous,
but we have spoken to plenty of people who do know enough that have we've listened to them and we're like, oh my God, so it is very complicated, and it's not as simple as, just, we'll just make them with what you got. Like no one's going to be doing metallurgical, quantum physics.
Well, it's a lot of skill set too. Like, obviously when the writing instrument whole, environment changed with things like ballpoints and roller balls, those were no longer manufactured by hand. They were completely automated. So basically a lot of the specialty work that went into tuning, adjusting nibs, repairing pens, stuff like that, a lot of that just went with the people who had that expertise, and there wasn't really a great way to pass that on. So you ended up with sort of a, I don't know the exact time frame, but in like the 70s, 80s kind of time frame, you ended up with this kind of vacuum of people that really knew how to make and repair these types of pens.
Yeah, and all that, those are all resources that would cost money that they wouldn't make back.
Yeah.
Like all of the cost of hiring these specialized, technicians, or the cost of doing the metallurgical research needed to happen to create these new alloys that would be like vintage flex nibs. Even if they did all that, the amount of people that are demanding these nibs are not enough people to make all of that worth it. They're just not for any of these big name companies that we're talking about, these legacy companies. For them to have that big of a campaign and expect a return on their investment, like that's just not their bread and butter anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of these companies, fountain pens aren't even their bread and butter anymore. So that would be a tough sell.
Yeah.
Overall, like selling fountain pens isn't easy to begin with. We're talking about a very niche hobby, and within that hobby, you've got a subset that are vintage enthusiasts, and within that subset of vintage enthusiasts, you have people who are paying attention to both vintage and modern. And then of that subset, you have a group of people that actually would want a modern flex. And so you're talking about these large companies servicing a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset.
Yeah.
And that is not where you're going to make your money. These
very
companies,
far beyond mainstream
these companies have to make money. They have to sell products that a lot of people will buy, and they just wouldn't be able to do that if they went that route.
Yeah.
And also, celluloid, ebonite, these materials that are known for being very vintage centric, they're not as in demand as you might think. Like we've sold ebonite and celluloid plenty of times, and we've struggled to sell some of them. Yeah. Even celluloid, like we get it, we understand that there's some appeal there, but just because something is made of these like really hard to get materials, not like ebonite's hard to get, but celluloid is, it doesn't make it an instant yes. And
not everybody knows or finds value in that.
Yeah,
it's a law of diminishing returns kind of a thing
for sure. Yeah. And now I will say that while most legacy brands have been sold and resold and sold and resold, there are a few that do genuinely care about their brand's heritage and history and are trying to pay homage to that, and do some projects that kind of bring that up to the surface. I would say Esterbrook is one of them. They've got a couple pens.
Yeah, they went dormant for a while, but they're being brought back.
But the current owners of Esterbrook do care a lot. They are trying to, like Esterbrook's, their old pens were known for having a lot of nib options. And what company happens to be currently working with at least 4 different nib technicians to put custom ground nibs on their pens? It's Esterbrook. It's not the exact same thing, but the spirit is still there. They've had a model JR. The new J absolutely is vintage inspired. So they're not absolutely trying to resurrect or do a one-to-one copy or anything like that, but they're definitely, their mind is there. So, you give credit where credit's due, as far as my opinion goes. And then finally, I did want to mention the fact that this year I did get to write with what I considered to be the best modern flex nib that I had written with, and that was a Magna Carta nib produced. The pen that they have that on is the Mag 600, and it is metallurgically built from the ground up to be a flex nib. It is not using the gold from something else. Like it was made, what was not atom by atom, but whatever bits that molecules. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Molecule by molecule, like with that in mind. So credit to Magna Carta as well for continuing to push these boundaries. So while Waterman isn't out there trying to make flex nibs, you do have companies in the modern sphere that are trying to innovate and bring back some of that vintage feel, whether it be the materials or the writing experience. They're definitely out there. But while there is progress being made, I most certainly would not hold my breath for a one-to-one exact replica of a vintage lever filler with a wet noodle flex nib on it. That's just not going to happen. But
I wonder how popular those even were at the time.
I think they were
they were pretty niche even when fountain pens were much more mainstream. I would imagine.
I think they were. I was speaking to my friend Craig. The Waterman Pink pen, which is the one I believe with the flex nib. I think there might be 2 with the flex nib, but either of those, those are the more rare ones to get. They're harder to find, so I imagine that they produce fewer of them.
I have one of those.
I know you do. So I have to imagine they've produced fewer of them than
probably
being so either or like a bunch of them broke or something. But either way, they're harder to get and they're more expensive to get. So I can only draw the conclusion that there were fewer of them made.
Probably.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents on the intentional damaging of one's brand by not making vintage pens.
Yeah, I think it's just a natural course of things that happens over time.
Yeah, you got to sell the stuff that makes the money.
Yeah.
And I'm just thankful that fountain pens have made a resurgence. I think we can all be grateful for that because they were on the cusp of death. They were at the precipice of doom. And
when we started this company, a lot of our distributors and stuff were just like, they're like
terrible idea.
Really despondent.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah, they were really despondent. They were like, I don't know what's going to happen in this industry. They were kind of just like,
and Brian's like,
dejected about it. And I was like, well, there's the internet.
Let me go ahead and do this during a recession. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's like, why not sell them on the internet?
It worked. And we're definitely seeing a resurgence.
Like, okay.
We're definitely like, things are alive and vibrant. So even though, the glory days in that regard are behind us, the people that are using fountain pens now are far more excited and passionate than the folks during its mid-century heyday were about fountain pens. So
on the average, sure.
I really appreciate being involved in that really positive environment where it's just passion and excitement fueled.
Totally agree. All right. Next one.
Brian and Drew. Whenever a new fountain pen is purchased, whether it's an expensive Mont Blanc brand or a cheaper TWSBI brand, for example, should the new pen always need to be cleaned or flushed before use? Indeed.
It's from David Titano as well. I think we skipped the name, but okay, good question. We do get asked this a lot. I know I've talked about this before, but I don't remember in what context.
You know what I've talked about before?
What have you talked about?
Last time I wore this shirt, you were also wearing blue, and I commented that we were doing a Star Trek thing.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a Star Trek thing.
Right.
You're like 70s, all maxed out here. You got
I bought these
brown corduroy pants.
I bought these pants.
Look at those
as part of my Velma costume.
So
I have to wear. I'm committed to wearing them now and getting my money's worth out of them. But I can't just wear red pants.
You got your sailor over there that kind of matches to the green,
So I gotta get my money's worth out of these pants, Brian. I can't just wear red pants with just anything. I have like one.
Are they red? They look brown to me.
Well, they're They're burgundy.
They're reddish brown.
Yeah, they're ox blood.
Okay. There you go.
Sorry. I deviated.
Okay, back to the question.
First time ever.
Do you have to clean your pens before you use them? Well, they're your pens. You can do whatever the heck you want with them, honestly. Now, manufacturers generally say you should clean your pens before you use them. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, honestly.
Doesn't hurt.
It definitely doesn't hurt anything. If you look at the lifetime of your pen, you're gonna be cleaning that thing quite a bit anyways. You can take 30 seconds. It's not hard to clean when there's no ink in it. So you can flush it quickly in 10, 20 seconds and be on your merry way. Now that said, do I do that with every new pen? No, I don't. I've done so many pens now and I inked up so many new pens. I know most of the time I don't actually have a problem with it. Is there a slight chance that there might be some manufacturing oils or little dust particles or something like that in there? Sure, that can definitely happen. So what I would say is if you're not going to be cleaning your pen before you use it for the first time, pay attention to that, know that you're doing that. And if you run into any kind of flow issues or any type of performance issues that don't meet your expectations, then just immediately clean the whole pen out and try again, because there could very well be something that was kind of in there. So that's the reason that most manufacturers are going to say that in their literature, always clean the pen first, because it's kind of like if you ever need IT support and they're always going to say like, is your computer plugged in? Is it turned on? Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? There's like basic steps that will generally solve most problems that you just kind of need to go through and get out of the way before you can further assess, is there actually like a defect or a problem or something to go further? So of course the manufacturers are going to say in their literature, clean the pen, because that's going to take care of like most any issues that you might run across with a new pen. So that's why they say it. But I don't think that every pen needs it. Most pen companies, they're at least cleaning the parts of the pen. I can't imagine that most of them are cleaning the fully assembled pen, because then how would you ever dry that thing out to look clean again? So they're cleaning all the parts generally separately. I know Lamy is the only one that like inks it up and tests it and kind of leaves some ink in there. That's why there's a little bit of blue on the feed. Mm-hmm. So with Lamy's, I do think it's a good idea to just flush it with water before you do it. But do you have to do that? No, I've done it plenty of times, but you are sort of mixing a little bit. It's not a ton of ink that's left on there and it's all dried out and stuff.
There was a video where you did that. It was like,
this was eons ago.
No, it was recently when we were in here. You had like Lamy Azurite, but it was brown. You don't remember that? Or versus, no, you're using a brown ink, but it was blue, but it came out this like brownish blue.
Oh, I think it's because like I didn't realize I hadn't cleaned out the pen.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. You're right.
The converter had emptied and dried out, and it fooled me.
That was right, yeah.
But yeah, that was something different. That was my bad. But no, I mean, there's gonna be a tiny bit of blue left in there. So I would recommend with Lamy's to do it. I know other brands will test their nibs too, like Aurora. We saw them doing that there. But I don't know that's like on every model of pen. So to make a blanket statement, it's a good idea to just go ahead and clean your pen as a default. But do you have to? No, not really. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, also I was thinking if you have a pen with an ebonite feed, I could see that maybe being a little bit helpful too, because ebonite is sort of porous and it helps to sort of get it primed if it's already wet, if it's already, if there are any like manufacturing oils or anything like that from the manufacturing process, it might be more likely to hang around on an ebonite feed. So it's a good idea to clean that thing out. So that's where I would recommend doing it. I don't know if that matters as much for plastic feeds so much. I don't think that they need to be like primed or get soaked or soaked to really get working.
Probably not.
It does make a difference for ebonite though. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's about all I had to say.
Cool. Yeah, I completely agree with all that.
Sweet. All right, Drew.
Yeah.
This is from Grimoire. How much do you loosen the blind cap on a vac filler when writing? Is there an easy way to tell it's open enough?
It is easy to tell if it's open enough. There's really no kind of open and not so kind of open. It's either open or shut. Like either ink's moving through or it's not, in my experience. So really, if you're using most vac fillers are demonstrators. Visconti's power filler is the only one that I know that tends to not be. Their double reservoir power filler is usually either on a demonstrator or in a pen with an ink window, so you can see the vac filler. But generally speaking, you can see your vac fillers. And you can see the part that seals the piston rod onto the grip section. So it's pretty clear when it's open or when it's not. You can usually simply take the knob and untwist it until you can't twist it anymore, or just until it's spinning freely, and that's enough.
Yeah.
I tend to do that and then just kind of take my fingertips and just pinch it out a little tiny bit just to be sure. I have had it happen like once or twice where I unscrew it and it still looked like it was pretty far down there. I just pull it out just a little bit to make sure that like the max amount of ink is flowing.
Yeah.
So because I don't like writing with them unscrewed. I hate it. Hate it, Brian.
It's not my favorite, but
don't like it at all. So what I do is I'll open it up all the way as much as I can. You know, I'll even pull it back a little bit. Not so much that when I push it back down, any ink comes out, like the tiniest bit, just so I can make sure that I can see a gap between that gasket and the grip section. I just want to make sure I can see ink between those two things. And as long as it's flowing, I might, write a little bit with it just to kind of get the ink flowing, get some air ink interchange happening, so I know that I have now taken some from the main reservoir and moved it to the, second reservoir and or the feed zone. And then I'll tighten it back down, because when I'm writing with it, not only is that knob spinning freely and annoying me, but sometimes the way it rests against your wrist, that gap between the barrel and the cap can be a little scratchy.
Yeah.
Because it's usually a pretty sharp edge.
Yeah.
And I just don't like that. It's distracting. I write for delight, and it's not delightful to have that thing back there spinning and scratching and causing general, chaos. So
what you're doing with your pens, and that thing is spinning all the time.
It does not take a lot to distract me, Mr. Goulet.
Fair enough.
You know that.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I bring it out, let the ink go down, and then I shut it off and move on with my day, because I do not like spinny madness.
Yeah, even if you don't have a pen that's got a double, like the Viscontis with a double reservoir, that's nice, because that reservoir holds about a converter's worth of ink. It's about a 0.5 mil or so, plus whatever's in the feed. So with that, it's nice because you can basically let that thing up, let the ink drop down into that reservoir, close it off, and you don't ever have to have that thing open while it's writing. All other vac filler pens essentially work the same way. They just don't have as much of a reservoir. Yeah. Usually it's like kind of right up against the back of the feed. So you're kind of only getting whatever is held in the feed. That's going to depend a lot per pen, but maybe 0.2 milliliters or something in those lines. Maybe 0.3, upwards of 0.5 if it's, which is about a converter's worth, on the larger pens. So, pen like the Custom 823, you're probably going to be more of like a close to a converter's worth of ink that might be held in that feed, which is enough to write a pretty decent amount.
And that is the vac filler that I write the most with. I'm not a big fan of vac fillers because I don't need that much capacity, and they're more trouble than they're worth, and they're hard to clean. But
and you're an ink sample guy.
I'm an ink sample guy.
That's annoying on a vac filler.
But the 823 is such a gorgeous pen. The Amber 823 is so good looking, and the nib on that is so nice.
It's a great nib,
I still love writing with it, even with its vacuum deficiency. I love that pen so much. I really do. I wish that I could get a 743 in that Amber.
Oh, yeah.
That would be my pen.
You would like that.
That would make me so very happy if I could get an Amber gold trim 743. Golly.
Yeah.
Ugh. But yeah, that's what I want. But either way, I will still tolerate it, but I will undo that cap, let it all go down, and then redo it, and then start writing for sure.
Yeah.
What is your preferred? What I guess it's your Homo sapiens is probably the vac pen you write the most with.
Homo sapiens is probably the one that I've used the most consistently.
Yeah.
And then it's probably the 823.
Yeah.
But honestly, like a big underrated one, and maybe I subconsciously picked this one because I read this question. But, we're going to show off the VAC Mini from TWSBI. I'm generally not a huge fan of mini pens, but for me, there's a lot I like about it. I won't go on about it right now because we're going to show it off in a bit. But I really do like that one too. I don't end up using that one as much because, again, I'm not a mini pen guy so much, but I do like that one.
Yeah.
And I like what vac pens can do for you, which is huge volume of ink.
Yeah.
And huge volume of ink with not having like the same burping issues and stuff like that you would on like an eyedropper pen. So I am a fan of it. And I'm a tinkerer. I love the technology inside of vac filler. So that is just really cool. So honestly, half the time I don't even keep my vac-filler pens inked up. I just keep them out and I can like play with them and kind of fiddle with them. That's more fun than anything. So for that matter, I love the TWSBI like VAC 700s because they come with the wrenches and they're easy to take apart and fiddle with and stuff like that. So that's always fun. So that's part of the appeal for me as well. Plus that one is really affordable. All the two TWSBI ones are great. So then I'll say too, alternatively, this is a bit of a hack, and this is not anything official because, you know, I don't want to say anything that would violate any warranty stuff. But if one were to desire to hack their custom 823.
Let's say TWSBI.
So TWSBI used to have the same design, but they actually changed it with their VAC. So when they had the original VAC 700,
that's right.
I'll tell you what I'm getting at. It's about the O-rings in there. So there's an O-ring that's like the seal that goes against the walls of the pen that actually gives it its vacuum like suction. And then on the custom 823, there's another smaller O-ring right on the end that kind of seals off where the ink meets the back of the feed. Technically, if you wanted to, you could, theoretically, with no advice or recommendation on my part, but one could disassemble that and take that smaller O-ring out, therefore eliminating the need to ever have to unscrew the back because the ink would then more or less be free flowing in there. Now it wouldn't seal, so you'd lose the capabilities of the, you know, flying with it and like all that.
And the barrel would crack, so you would never have to use it again.
Why would you say it's going to crack?
The 823?
No. I've never had mine crack.
Man.
It can be cracked.
We have seen so many cracked 823s by people trying to take the back off.
Well, that's what they say not to do it, because if you tighten it back up too much, you can crack. But you can do that on any vacuum filler. But it's been more of an issue with.
I have a graveyard of 823 barrels.
This is why I'm not recommending that you do it. But if you were to take it upon yourself, you're taking your pen's life into your own hands. But that is a possibility. You used to be able to do that on the original TWSBI VAC 700. But when they came out with the VAC 700R, they changed the piston. So now it's just a single piston that blocks it off, and you don't have that second little one. So yeah, just unscrew the knob because what happens is when you unscrew that knob, it's actually pulling the rod out a little bit to separate it from the back of the feed. So if you unscrew it to the point where that knob is in free spinning, that's enough. I mean, yeah, if you like Drew does, you can just give it a little tug just for extra assurance. Yeah. I personally, granted, I haven't like tested this thoroughly on hundreds of pens or anything, but I've never had it where, you know, I've unscrewed it and had that not be enough. And
it's always enough. It's always enough. Sometimes I just want, because I want to get it over quickly, I want like all the ink to go down.
Fair enough. To each their own. But anyway, there you go. Not advice, but take it for what you will.
All right.
All the disclaimers.
And we made it to question 5 this week,
we
Brian.
Did. We're like chugging along here.
We are.
We have a question 5 to
we
make
have
it
a question
to.
5,
Yeah,
yes.
I like it.
And this is from Wood Thrush Cottage, which sounds like a old TV show I would watch at my grandmother's house. Yeah. I don't know, like maybe they would do painting or something.
Like a PBS show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Welcome to Wood Thrush Cottage today. I am Derry Marbles. All right. Hi, Brian and Drew. Hi, Wood Thrush Cottage. I love and look forward to this pencast so much. Can Brian share a leadership tip he has found to be the most effective? Will Drew wear his patch jacket on the pencast? I put this question on here saying like, yeah, of course. I'll make sure I, grab it when I come in, but I totally forgot.
I almost texted you last night being like, hey, are you going to bring your jacket? Just making sure. I was like, he put the question in here. He must have put it here because
there was good intentions.
He was intending to bring the jacket.
Yeah. I intend to do many, many things.
Yeah. Well, and then we were talking right before we started recording. I was like, but you wore your jacket at the DC show, but then I realized he didn't have it on when we recorded the actual thing. Yeah. So yeah, he's it's been out there. It has been seen, but not on video. So
you know what I will say? I need to sew on a bunch of new patches because I was given probably 4 patches at the DC and San Francisco shows that I don't have room for on my jacket. So I'm going to my rickshaw laptop bag is going to become a new patch canvas for all of these delightful gift patches that I have come into possession of.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is very cool.
You need to get like other things to wear, like a cape or
definitely a denim cape.
What else do you What other
Cape sounds
what
great.
other apparel do you put patches on?
Let's just go with like a Canadian tuxedo, but instead of it being like a suit, it is an entire Jedi outfit.
Oh, okay.
Just an acid washed Jedi.
Wow.
Let's go with that.
That would be a look.
It would be
That would be a look. My goodness. Okay. Leadership tip. I have a couple actually that kind of came to mind.
What?
Yeah, surprisingly. I've picked up on a few leadership things along the way, though I'm still learning every day. Some of my favorites that came to mind. So John Maxwell has a book called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. One of his laws is the law of the lid, also known as the leadership lid.
You have mentioned that many times over the years.
I talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
And, I feel responsible for a lot of what happens in our company, surprisingly, founder, CEO. So for me, I take the leadership lid to heart. So the leadership lid law is leadership ability is the lid that determines a person's level of effectiveness. Summarizing kind of that for me as a business owner, how I interpret that, Goulet Pens can't grow any more than my ability to lead the company. So in order to grow our company, I need to make sure that I'm growing myself. So I think you can take that not just in a business company setting, but really in any setting. It could be your family, it could be a relationship. If you're not growing as a person, you're going to have like sort of a cap to however fruitful that relationship situation or whatever can be. So it's really just a reminder that like you kind of need to work on yourself and constantly learn and improve and kind of put in the work there, and then good things will happen. So I keep that one in mind a lot. So a reminder that's certainly helpful for me in leadership, but it also helps in basically any kind of relationship interaction with other humans. People can't read your mind, shockingly. But it's amazing how often we think that should be able to happen. What seems so clear in your own head is often not nearly as clear to the other person that you're trying to communicate with. It can sometimes be helpful to like maybe talk through a situation with a colleague or a friend or, somebody unrelated, maybe a mentor, therapist, whatever. But, a caution that if you're talking through a situation with someone else about, another thing and you're not involving that person directly, you're going to feel like you're solving that problem, but you haven't done anything with the person that's actually involved. So you can sort of fool yourself into thinking you're working on it. So you really just have to keep that in mind. You don't want to have that mistake of clarifying your situation to others, but then expecting the person to be able to like read your mind, because like you feel better about it, you've worked it out, and then you just get frustrated that they haven't also figured out their side of it. Just don't assume that. Just talk to the freaking person and work it out.
It's a good rule in any relationship.
Yeah. My sister, my sister is in like the IT space, and she's also really big into empathy. She's actually in the process of writing a book about empathy with coding. So empathy in like the IT world, which is sorely needed. And she's done a lot of research. She tells me about it and all this kind of stuff. It's more like an academic type book. It sounds absolutely miserable to try to write, but she's put in a lot of work. So anyway, I'll share more about that when it's going to happen, but it's been 3 years in the making already, so not going to hype it up too much. But it's funny because she was just talking with me about this last time we got together over Labor Day. And she was talking about how there's a lot that they're learning about empathy and communication, like currently, things that were like assumed, to be very well understood, that they're finding is maybe not as well understood. One of the things she mentioned to me, I don't remember all the exact numbers and statistics, but the gist of the conversation was people are really bad at reading other people. So I remember a couple of the numbers. It was like, if you have a total stranger, you're generally accurate at reading somebody's feelings or emotions 5% of the time. That's how often people can get it right with a total stranger. So you interact with somebody for the first time, you're going to be 95% wrong about what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Sound about right?
It does.
And then it's like, if you're in a more of a close like working relationship or something, it's more like 20, 30%. But like the maximum, most emotionally intelligent, self-aware, somebody with like a lifelong partner, they get it about 50% of the time.
That also feels accurate.
Yeah. So at best, the like Olympic level communicators are still wrong half the time.
Yeah.
So pretty much you can assume you don't have an accurate view of the situation.
Yeah,
so take that humbly.
If you've been with somebody for, a couple decades, that you know that.
Yeah.
Like it's still, one of these days I think I'm going to get it, but like, no, about half, that sounds right. And I try hard. Like Shannon and I are both, I consider good communicators, from a relationship standpoint.
Sure.
And even then,
50%.
Yeah.
It's the best you can get.
Yeah.
It's the best you can hope for. But, not to get like discouraged about that. Just realize.
No, it's actually pretty encouraging.
Yeah, because
you feel like I'm doing okay.
Yeah, like nobody does it all that great.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, maybe there's a little bit of hope. But it's also like, I don't know, makes sense when you look at, certain online interactions. Talk about complete strangers. You definitely don't know somebody when you're posting online or whatever. And then to make like a snap judgment about their feelings or what's going on, you are guaranteed to be quite wrong the majority of the time. So anyway, so I think that's pretty important. So to go on top of that too, most of us are very conflict avoidant as well. And we're pretty bad about being clear anyway. So when you combine the like assumption that somebody should be able to know what's on your mind or read the situation, even if they're trying and they're really good at it, they're going to be wrong most of the time. And if you're being kind of conflict avoidant and not being clear in your communication, it's just a recipe for miscommunication. So I would say most of leadership is overcoming that. It's really just making sure that
it's communication hurdles.
It's communication and relationships and building trust. That's the vast majority of it. Trust is really just everything. That's why trust is our currency, is one of our core values here, because it's like nothing works without trust. And then there's an expression that I think about a lot. I think it was maybe like a Dave Ramsey thing or something like that. I don't know if he came up with it originally, but it's to be unclear is to be unkind.
Oh yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Well, that transcends not just leadership, but service as well. If we're communicating with a customer, if we're not, like, even though we might not want to say like, okay, well, like this is, the price that it is, or unfortunately, yes, you do have to pay those customs fees. Like, no, tell them about the customs fees. Tell them about the VAT. Like they need to know these things. Like, sometimes it's annoying and sucks. It might, their person very well might say, okay, well, I'm not going to buy that then. But you still, being clear and honest is the kind thing to do. You're benefiting them, and no one wins if you're being unclear. Like in the short term, you might be like, oh, good, I was nice to them. But then long term, like you told them not the full truth.
It's conflict avoidance. That's all it is. It feels good in the moment to not address the conflict because it's uncomfortable. Yeah. But in the long term, you're not really helping anybody. And then it can actually compound and be that much worse and be 100%. That much more uncomfortable.
It's going to come back. It's going to eventually that, lack of clarity is going to have repercussions. You might have avoided it, which is kind of selfish, but that person who was given the unclear information is going to figure that out eventually.
Yeah. It's all too close to home. This is the stuff we battle with every single day.
Oh yeah.
And then the last thing I have is something that's helpful to remember, especially if you're in like an official leadership position. But even if you're being led, this can be helpful to keep in mind. It's called the 5 enemies of unity. This is something that we've talked about quite a bit here at Goulet Pens as well. Basically, like, teamwork is really good. Again, it's all about building trust and communicating well. But there's five things that will really undermine that and make it kind of impossible. First one is poor communication, kind of like a lot of what we just talked about, or being unclear, not having like proper expectations set, not expressing when you're dissatisfied with something, or if you felt somebody didn't listen to you or appreciate something, making that known. Poor communication is definitely an enemy of unity. Second one is gossip, which basically gossip is saying anything negative to anyone who's not directly involved with
or
that
someone
situation.
that can't help the situation.
Yeah, someone that can't help the situation. So it's like, it's one thing if you go to like your HR director or your immediate supervisor or that other person's supervisor, they can actually do something about that. But if you're just going and jawboning to a coworker who's not related to the situation and all that kind of stuff, that gossip is one of the worst. It's one of the most insidious things, and it happens all the time, which is why we think it's, okay or so commonplace. But for me, the worst thing about gossip is when you are, even if you're not directly involved in the gossip, if you're being gossiped to and you're listening and, even just by default encouraging that by not saying like, no, don't tell me that. If that person is gossiping to you, then you as the listener are going to think less of that person because you're like, well, if they're saying that about this other person, what are they going to say about me behind my back? It's like high school kind of stuff, right? Yeah. But like it really undermines trust incredibly. So, and it's like a natural default setting and it happens everywhere. So we have to like actively combat it and try to keep it out of our building. So that's another thing. The third one is unresolved disagreements. Ooh, and this one is tough because it's like literally that whole like.
Well, we've talked about conflict avoidance. Yeah. It's a natural state.
Yeah. And there's a helpful way to think about it is something called constructive conflict. And that's a Pat Lencioni thing. He's got that in a couple of different books of his, which I can't remember which it is, but I know his book, The Advantage, is kind of a capstone, and it's in there too. But, it's about basically you can have the like, everything's hunky-dory, no one disagrees, we're all friends, we all get along, but then, that's never actually true. So then you have what's called artificial harmony, and you get kind of like a Stepford Wives kind of feel where you're like, everybody's smiling and seems happy, but like there is definitely a vibe going on around here. That's where gossip can be, rampant, those types of things. That's not helpful. You got to be able to speak up in a safe place, a safe way, have those constructive disagreements. One thing that we do here, and this happens a lot, especially in like our new product type settings, because there's a lot of different products. We all have opinions and feelings and, there's a lot of different things to keep in mind. And, if we're going to carry a new product, it's going to demand different things of certain people who might already be stressed. So there's a lot of potential for conflict in those meetings, almost more than any other at Goulet Pens. So we always have like one person who's the final decision maker. And we've changed that up even who that's been over time. But, having one to final decision maker and making it an environment where everybody has the opportunity and is encouraged to share their opinion, even if it's a dissenting opinion, even if you're like, I don't think we should carry this product because XYZ, I don't believe in it or whatever it is, but I understand if you guys want to carry it. It's the expression of commit. Yeah, disagree but commit, and that is unbelievably helpful. And if you do that, to truly do that, you can't like secretly be like, see, I knew it was going to fail. We should have never carried this. That's not actually committing, right? So that's like hedging yourself, and that's not a really healthy thing to do either. But, and we have that happen all the time, even with like me or Rachel or people you would think like we get the final say on everything. I'm actually not the final decision maker on our new products. I have an opinion and of course and stuff like that, but I'm not just going to like road steamroll over people. If like we've agreed that somebody else makes the final call, I'll share my opinion, but I will disagree and commit to whatever it is, even if I don't necessarily believe in it. So that's important. The fourth one, enemy of unity, is lack of shared purpose. This is why you have things like mission statements and core values and stuff like that. Just make sure that everybody's like on the same team and
driving toward the same goal.
Exactly. That one's really important. And the last one, this one is rough, I'll be honest with you. It's called sanctioned incompetence. I get like tingles even just thinking about that because I am guilty of that one. We all are because we get busy, but it's when you know that there's something going on that needs to be addressed. It's either an attitude that somebody has or something gets said or just they're not quite doing their work or whatever it may be. And you're just letting it happen. You're not speaking up about it. You're not properly addressing it. You're wanting to avoid that conflict again. And essentially you end up sanctioning it because you don't do anything about it. And that, I keep in mind too.
The silence is approval.
Yeah, exactly. That can happen in relationships. It can happen with kids. Oh, as a parent, that's like another dimension to it. It's so painful. But,
yeah, and not only are you doing a disservice to the person who is the incompetent one, for lack of a better term, but you are hurting all of the performers near that person, at a peer level, because they are now, if they happen to be performing at an elite level, and yet this person that they see every day is completely incompetent and there's no discussions happening, there's no repercussions, there's no coaching opportunities, what incentive does that person then have to excel, to be motivated to go above and beyond? None. because there's no consequence. They're not, they're seeing this other person making the same amount of money as them, presumably, and doing half the work. Like that it can ruin everything.
Yeah, that's
and
rough.
when you accidentally take motivation away from a top performer, how depressing is that? Like
they'll probably quit.
Oh, and they deserve to.
They'll either quit and actually leave, or they'll quit and stay.
Yeah.
And just not produce nearly what they
either
could.
way, the leader loses.
Yeah, it's rough.
That's when you need to have that conflict. And again, to be unclear is to be unkind, right? Like the person who is incompetent in this case, you might be able to fix it. It might just be a thing that they're just unaware of, and all you need to do
it's probably just a miscommunication because we're bad at that.
That's what it all is. It's all so much miscommunication.
Yeah.
Just have that conversation. And that was something that was really beneficial to me, when I was in a managerial role, was because I am very conflict averse. I am not what I thought was like a manager, a driver. I was a very like nurturing, like, hey buddy type. But when I thought about the unclear, unkind aspect, I'm like, well, I don't want to be unkind. Like that struck a chord with me. So I was very easily able to, make a mental paradigm shift and say, well, if this is a service to this person, I can totally do that.
Yeah.
So once I reframed it, I was much more easily able to have those conversations because I realized like I am helping this person. This person might get fired if I don't help them be better, and I don't want them to get fired. I like them. They're good at what they do. They just need to be pointed in the right direction. So that was super helpful to me because kindness is definitely something I like to do.
Yeah.
And if you have to go through a few bumps to provide that kindness, which might not look like kindness, but clarity is always something that people benefit from.
Or I think about like, if you have the complete, destructive way that you see this play out, if you've ever seen any work situation or whatever, where somebody is incompetent or bad at what they do, or they just have a lot of interpersonal conflicts with people, and then they get promoted because they don't want to be dealt with. That happens in a lot of organizations. They either get transferred or promoted, or people just want to get them out of there. And then they're basically being rewarded for bad behavior. And then everybody sees that, and it just undermines credibility all around.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Not here, thankfully, but retail.
Hopefully not here.
No, big box retail.
Really hard. Yeah, I can see. In larger corporate structures, I could see that being just, again, it's not like big companies are evil or anything like that. I mean, some might be, but some small companies are evil too. People are people. But I think it's that much harder to have this unity the larger the organization gets, and you have to work at it that much more. So anyway, we've talked a lot about things. You asked for one leadership tip, and you got a whole bunch. So hopefully you enjoy that. If y'all have other questions, feedback, you can definitely leave us comments on YouTube because we want to look at those. You can also email us at pencast@gouletpens.com, and we'll take what you have to say and absorb it, and then maybe spit it back out. All right, we're gonna have a pen spotlight this week. We have the TWSBI VAC Mini, since we were talking about vacs. Figure it's a good time. So let's check it out.
All right, here we go, Brian. Show us the thing.
All right, TWSBI VAC Mini. So it's a relatively small pen. I mean, I've got big hands, but this pen's 5 inches or so long.
Yeah, it's a little pen.
So it's a little like, I would call it
it's a mini.
I would call it a pocket pen.
Definitely.
But it threads onto the back. So, that's kind of cool. It's nice that it can fit positively on the back.
Yeah, it is the largest of like what I consider to be a pocket pen, though.
Yeah.
It is larger than the SDJR.
Well, yeah, in terms of like length or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Plus, like, other pens that post more deeply that don't have the threads on there, the overall pen's not going to be as long when you're actually holding it in your hand. But this feels like a full length pen.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, when you have the cap on.
Absolutely.
If you don't have the cap on, it's still doable. It like just kind of rests up there barely, but it's doable. But the reason I like this pen a lot is because it's the vacuum filler. So if you're not familiar with how vacuum fillers work, we were talking about this previously on question 4, I think it was. So, the whole body fills with ink, just like, if you were going to have an eyedropper and the whole thing was going to be filled with ink, you get a huge ink capacity. I forget what it is on this one, 2 milliliters or something like that. But it's a pretty good amount of ink.
Oh, yeah.
And then the VAC 700 is even more, or the 823, whatever. They get pretty big.
I like this way more than the VAC 700. Do you?
The VAC 700 gets pretty big, and it's got some shapes to it.
And the step.
The step is pretty dramatic.
This is much more comfortable to hold.
It is. I like the VAC 700 too, though. So I really like both. But the cool thing about the way this fills, here's the rubber O-ring that we were trying to talk about. I don't know how easily you can kind of see in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of glare, but so as you unscrew, I can actually feel the rod pulling a little bit. So I'm going to put it all the way down, right? So as I unscrew it, so it's unscrewing a little bit and it's not moving the rod yet, but I can feel where it starts to get some resistance. And as I'm unthreading it, you can see barely that thing is moving back, right? And now I'm free spinning, right? So just that little bit that it moved back.
See, here's where I would pull it back just a little bit.
So you would pull it back?
Just a pinch. Oh, no, not that much. Yeah,
well,
right.
You can pull it back that much. That's where it actually starts to catch.
Right. Yeah, I would pull it just, there you go.
Pull it like that?
Yeah.
And that's cool. Like, you do you, right? But I think you don't necessarily need to, because there is a gap right there, and ink is going to get down.
I just want to see a gap.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, you can theoretically, you can see here, like on the walls, like the way all these vacuum fillers work is it's got a difference in wall thickness from the main body of the pen here, and then you can see it kind of flares out. Mm-hmm. It's subtle, but you can definitely see it. Well, that's what happens. So as you are pulling the piston back, you can see where it's making contact with the walls. So you pull it back, and then as you push it down, what it's doing is it's creating a negative pressure here, or a vacuum. Imagine that. And it's creating vacuum, and then right when it drops off here, boom, all that negative pressure here wants to equalize. And if you have this submerged in ink, the ink will rush in to fill the vacuum that you just created. So it's kind of interesting how this fills. It's different than a piston, which is, creating a vacuum as you're pulling the piston back. This one is the opposite. It's creating a vacuum as you're pressing it down, and then it releases it all, equalizes, and shoots the ink up in there. So I wanted to show you just kind of how that works. If you're familiar with vacuum filling pens, this is going to be nothing new for you. So I have this is not an actual bottle of ink. It's just mostly water with a little bit of ink for demonstration purposes.
It's mini golf water.
Yeah, exactly. So we got to submerge it all the way up to the grip, because on this pen, that's where the filler hole is right under the grip there. So I got to dunk that all the way in. And then basically I just press it down. And then, as I'm pressing it down, you don't necessarily have to do it fast or slow or whatever. It'll just happen. You can see it's like got some air bubbles there because it's pushing air out. And then as soon as I drop it down, it should shoot some ink up in there. Oh, let's see if I did that. Try it again. There we go. So it helps to do it a couple of times, especially if you're inking a fresh pen. And most vac fillers, you're only going to get about half a filling or so. But this is where having something like a traveling inkwell, can help, because then you can actually turn the thing upside down and fill it. Or if you dare, you can do my little trick. Let's see.
Yeah, like the inverted thing.
Yeah. So what I do, as I get the ink down on the bottom here, you don't need to do this. They hold plenty of ink, and you don't definitely have to fill it up all the way. But what I like to do is put that down till it gets to where it is. And then if I fill it, I think then it will get more of a filling. It doesn't max it out, but you can get a little higher.
You can keep doing it and eventually get there.
Yeah, so you're kind of just like, let's see. See, it's kind of like scooting by. Let's see how full I can get it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're about 2/3 or so, but whatever. Anyway, so that's still going to hold you plenty of ink. And then, you're all primed up here with ink to be able to write with it. So you can go ahead and knock yourself out. I would guess you can write, I don't know, probably 10 pages or something like that.
Probably more.
It depends on the nib size, maybe, how much ink will flow out, but you can write quite a bit. It's not like you got to do the knob thing like every time. But when it starts to write a little dry, or just every now and then as you think of it, just literally unscrew that knob a little bit, let some ink go down. If you want to write with it like that, you can, and then some ink will get down. Or you can just leave it like that for a little bit, and then, some ink will kind of work its way through, and then you close it back up, and you'll have some ink in the feed then. So it's really up to you. It takes a little practice, a little skill. It's a little extra thing to think about, but I don't know. I like it. I think it's pretty cool.
Definitely fun.
Yeah. So these TWSBI VAC Minis are around $60, I want to say. There might be some... They really don't do a lot of variants of these VAC Minis, do they? They don't do
They really don't.
Special editions and stuff like that. They do that much more on...
Criminally underrated, though.
On the... well, they've done like the... They got a Mini AL that they've done maybe 1 or 2 colors on.
A VAC
Have
AL?
they done a VAC AL? No, I'm thinking of the Mini
Yeah.
piston one. Yeah, they really haven't done much with the vacuum, but I don't know. I think it's cool. I think I would like it if they did some more colors. Of
Definitely.
The VAC Minis, but anyway... So pretty good value pen, big ink capacity. It's pretty manageable to clean and stuff like that. Comes with the wrenches too. I didn't show that, but you can take the thing out. And then what I like about that is when you take it out, then you can basically flush it with a bulb syringe like you would a cartridge converter pen. So
best thing about it though is that it's compatible with the VAC 20A bottle.
Oh, that's true.
Love that bottle.
That's true.
That bottle is so helpful, whether it's a VAC 700R or a VAC Mini. It can plug right into it. You can invert the whole bottle rather than having to do the inverted thing. Mm-hmm. You flip around the bottle and you get a full blast of ink that fills the entire chamber.
Yeah, and it's the same nib as the Eco. It's that number 4 TWSBI nib. So if you like writing with an Eco, it's the same writing experience there. Extra fine, medium, broad, 1.1.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
they have a 1.1
available on that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for the little one?
For the Mini?
I
for
think
the VAC
so.
Mini?
I think so.
I should probably check myself on that.
Yeah,
one,
why not?
Whatever. It's on the website.
Yay!
Cool. That's the VAC Mini.
All right.
Okay.
We're going to talk about what's happening?
You want to talk about what's happening?
You got some stuff happening.
It's more like what's happened.
Yeah, what happened?
We ill named this section, I guess.
I guess we did.
What's happening would be we're recording a pencast right now.
That would be what we're
Words
talking
are coming
about.
out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at the camera.
And they need to know about these things.
Yeah.
All right, so what's happening? What happened was I had an extraordinarily lazy weekend. You would have been miserable. 'Cause I didn't do anything.
I have lazy weekends. Well, lazy moments in my weekend.
No, I literally dedicated 10 hours this weekend to binging a Netflix series.
Oh, wow.
10 hours. Sitting down, not doing anything else. Like, I'm not even on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah, sitting.
Yeah, I can't relate to that at all.
No, sitting on the love sack in the dark watching TV. So what I did was watch. So Archer my 9-year-old, had started reading the One Piece manga series. So he's on book 12. So 4 volumes of 3 volumes, I guess. They collect them in 3. But anyway, he's been loving that. And coincidentally, he didn't know about this when he first started getting into it, but they had been producing a live-action Netflix adaptation of this manga.
That's cool.
That's been running since like the late 90s. So it's like a old, and it's still going on, like in both manga form and anime form, I think. So it's like
30 years?
Yeah, it's like, and it's the same guy doing it.
Wow.
Like the same guy is drawing it and writing it. So
respect.
It's a big deal. Yeah, this is a very, very popular thing. I knew of it. I knew it was like pirate themed, but I didn't know anything about it. But he's been talking about it, so I told him like, hey, there's a Netflix thing. I briefly looked at it, make sure it was appropriate. It had some language for sure, but and it had one PG-13 F-bomb thrown in, so I couldn't have predicted that, but whatever. So yeah, he loved it, and we watched all 10 episodes. So
wow,
that was our weekend.
Wow.
And it was good. It was Shannon, my wife, told me about Cowboy Bebop when we first got together. It was an anime that she liked. She's not a big fan of anime. That was just the one. So we watched that, and that was good. So when Cowboy Bebop got a live action adaptation, we were pretty excited about that. Turned out that one not great.
Yeah.
This one though, it was very silly. It had plenty of silly moments that I'm like, well, this is weird seeing this in live action. But you kind of know that going in, so you kind of just roll with that. But overall, it was colorful. Surprising amount of practical effects. Like there were some kind of monstery looking fish people, kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean. They had that crew of half man, half sea creature.
Right.
They did some of that. Practical effects. Like they very easily could have made all that CG, but they didn't, and I thought that was cool. I very much love practical effects. So that was the big thing of the weekend. Did start to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once with Shannon.
I've heard really good things about that.
So had I, and I enjoyed it. It was very strange and too strange for Shannon. Like,
yeah, I'd heard good things about it, and I was like, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, neither did I.
Other than I've been told like it's basically ADHD in movie form, and I was like, I don't know what that means. But
it's
then
very bizarre.
I sat down, and I was like, Rachel, let's just watch the trailer and see if it's anything we'd be interested. She was like, hell no, I have no interest in watching.
If I had shown Shannon the trailer, she probably would have said that as well.
Yeah.
So we watched half of it. And then she's like, I guess you probably want to watch the second half, right? I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah, you would assume.
So,
wow,
I mean,
okay.
To be fair, it is, I don't
It seems like
begrudge
a
her.
lot. It seems like a lot.
It is a lot. It's
Yeah.
a like parallel universe thing thrown at you real fast.
But it won like all kinds of awards and stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
does that mean anything? I don't know.
It sometimes does.
Like, I know awards can sort of be, bought or
yeah, you can't really trust awards. I will say that this one didn't. This one's not your standard Oscar bait. So
yeah,
I will say that.
Sense.
So I will say that as far as Best Picture award winner, this one isn't that like oh god, of course this is going to win Oscars. This is one of those. It doesn't feel like that. It definitely it's completely different. And in this day and age, something completely different and original, you got to give that point. So
it just has to be really weird to be.
It just has to be really weird.
New.
Yeah, you just have to have Jamie Lee Curtis with hot dog fingers.
Would you recommend it for me? Do you think I would enjoy it?
No.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Interesting.
We were on the plane and you were watching that like CG movie with the girl with the like robot arms, and you were like, "This is stupid."
Oh yeah.
Like no,
I didn't think that was stupid.
You would not. No, you'd have no patience.
I don't know what movie
this.
that was. I'll never know.
It was called Alita: Battle Angel.
Oh. How do you know that?
It was.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. But I'm aware of it. I'm like the stuff that gets served up to me is very nerdy. I'm in that sphere. So nerdy sci-fi crap. I get
my algorithms don't serve me. That kind of stuff.
No, that is absolutely my algorithm.
Okay.
But yeah, I actually heard it was a good movie. So. I don't know,
oh yeah, that's it. Oh, and her eyes are so big and weird. What the heck is up with her eyes?
So I'm saying,
I remember this now.
If this movie, like
Alita Battle Angel, Google that. Google image search
it
that.
It looked cool to me. I'm sure it's
all right. If you're in the comments, Google this Alita Battle Angel. Look at the images and look at this girl's eyes.
Well, they're CG eyes.
Freaks me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, they're
she's
CG
a cyborg, Brian. She's not a human.
Yeah, but if you have the ability to make a cyborg, don't make it a cyborg that like freaks everybody out. Make it look like a human.
Oh my god.
Not an almost human.
Anyway.
With giant eyes.
So I hope we'll watch this. I hope we'll watch this.
How do I just record it like this from now on?
That's
giant eyes.
That is freaky. I'll give you that.
Yes, it is freaky. Anyway.
So I hope we'll get to watch the second half. Looking forward to that because I do want to finish it. I'm a finisher. Even if it's funky, I'll finish it.
Is that why you wrote everything everywhere in the notes?
Yeah.
And not all at once because you haven't seen the second half?
Ah, that's funny. No, I didn't.
I didn't know if that was intentional.
But I've only like just shut off, maybe 2 or 3 movies and not finished them. I always finish movies.
You seem like a finisher.
Yeah, I am.
Have you ever walked out of a movie in a theater?
No, I will say that one that I wanted to walk out on was the third X-Men movie. That thing was just hot, steamy doo-doo. That was a bad movie.
Interesting.
And it was very I felt embarrassed being in there.
Oh, gosh.
Like, it was bad.
But
I didn't.
I don't think I've ever walked out.
I paid for it, so I'm like, I'm not going to walk out of here.
Yeah, sunk cost.
Yeah, I recently, I watched half of Syriana with George Clooney, shut that off. It made me feel stupid, like I didn't know what was going on.
I hadn't even heard of that.
And then I shut off Elvis, the new Elvis biopic. Like that was just
if it didn't do it justice.
No, it was just so annoying to watch. Like it was like a 2-hour long music video where there was no build up or pace. It was all just flashing transitions, quick time skips. It was just frenetic.
No rise and fall.
No, it could not just chill. It had no chill. at all, and I was just frustrated by it.
That was
So
kind of Elvis's life.
I probably would have watched
Guy
the
had
rest
no
of it.
chill.
Yeah, I probably would have watched the rest of it if Shannon wasn't there, but I could tell that she was just like, what the heck is going on? So like,
Yeah.
I don't care about this enough to power through this.
You know what I do like is the Elvis on Drunk History, the one with Jack Black.
Oh, fantastic.
That's
Fantastic.
It's
I saw the
great.
guy that did the commentary for that, the big dude.
Oh yeah.
He was in something we were watching recently. Oh no, he was in Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
He was in Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
He was the
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him until we just started rewatching Parks and Rec. I'm like, that's the dude from the Elvis episode of Drunk History. Yeah. Fantastic.
That's awesome.
And anyway, started speaking of, Alita Battle Angel-ish, I started a game called Cyberpunk 2077. I finished
Okay.
Assassin's Creed, moved on to this. My brother actually let me borrow it and that's strange because he never buys physical media of anything. So started that. It's weird. When it came out, it had a ton of glitches, so it wasn't super well received, but I think
Okay.
that they mostly fixed it. So I'm playing that through. It's fine. It's first person, sci-fi, Blade Runner-ish sort of
Okay.
situation. It hasn't gripped me yet, but
There's a lot in that genre that
yeah,
it's got to compete with.
it seems neat enough, but we'll see. It's a lot of picking up loot, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. TBD on that one.
All right.
Got a flat tire. That was fun.
There's somebody who steps on the back of your heel of your shoe.
That probably
comes off?
happened, but
Yeah.
no. In this case, no. I didn't do enough walking this weekend for that to happen.
I guess not. You
but
sat there for 10 hours.
We did on our way to Josh and Jeffrey's for dinner on Sunday. We did get in the car, and I backed up and flop, 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 flop. Shannon and I looked at each other like, that's
No.
not right. So
No.
got out of the car, looked. I'm like, yep, that's flat. Big old screw right in the tread, which is fine because I'm like, hey, that should be patchable.
That's repairable. Yeah.
I did try to put the spare on. First time I ever tried to do that in the Mazda.
Okay.
Got the spare out, got the jack, got the wrench out, jacked it up. It fell the first time, repositioned it, did fine
Yeah.
the second time.
Those jacks that come in the cars are like
Yeah.
the bare minimum of what a jack
Well,
needs to be.
the surface area is so tiny.
Yeah.
But then getting the lugs off, impossible.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Did you try to take the lugs off after you jacked the car?
Of course.
That's why you had a
Oh,
hard
really?
time. Yeah, you loosen the lugs while the car's
Oh.
down because the tire won't spin.
Oh, it wasn't spinning.
Oh.
No, it wasn't spinning.
It just was hard to get off.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Like,
you gotta fight it pretty good.
yeah, and I don't have a four-way. It's just the,
Oh, it's like this little bent one, so you
Yeah.
don't get like good leverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
So we have USAA auto insurance, and they have free towing and stuff like that as long as within 10 miles. So
Okay.
we had it towed over here to Lakeside, and it was free. So whatever. I mean, not free. We pay for it, but I talked to the guy at our normal mechanic's office, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, those don't come off. Like we replaced your tires for you. We tightened them really tough. You're not getting those off unless you have a four-way thing." I was like, "Okay, cool. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better."
Yeah.
So anyway, they were able to patch it, but we also we got it inspected a couple weeks ago, and he said, "All right, your brakes are measuring at a 2 or something. Anything less than a 2, it would fail. We're gonna pass you, but you need to come back and you can get your brakes done." I was like,
your,
"Oh God,
your brakes
thank-"
are on the border of
Yeah.
failing.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh God, thank you so much," because I just didn't have the money that week.
Yeah.
And then so we were like, "All right, well, flat tire. We'll go ahead and get the brakes done. Like, we have more of that money than we did the last time. Let's just go ahead and get it done." So we got the brakes done. We got the tire patched. So yay. And then after that, we went ahead and after we switched cars, we went ahead and went out and did takeout potluck at Josh and Jeffrey's. So everybody brought a random like side item from a takeout place and brought that. So like it's something that they do every now and then. And Shannon's go-to is just to go to Olive Garden and get breadsticks, because everybody likes Olive Garden breadsticks, but nobody actually wants to go and dine at Olive Garden. So it's kind of like
my kids do. They freaking love Olive
Oh
Garden.
well, yeah, but like the more discerning of people.
My kids are not discerning at all.
I know,
don't take any offense.
Neither
to
am I. No, I'm fine with Olive Garden. I don't care. But everybody.
The dressing on the salad is nice.
I'll eat anywhere.
Yeah.
But universally, the breadsticks are enjoyed. So we brought a bunch of breadsticks, and then people just bring sides. Someone just went to Chipotle and bought a bunch of bowls, and so you could just kind of scoop something out of the bowls, put that on your plate. Oh. One person bought 20 Taco Bell tacos. Nice. Somebody, some random, macaroni salad, just a bunch of side items, so you just.
You know what would be good? to bring to that, the Arby's zucchini bread.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
That would be a great thing.
That is a great idea.
That zucchini bread is
it's fantastic.
amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's really unhealthy. It's like eating cake.
Oh, terrible.
It's really
It's probably just as bad as like a biscuit from Bojangles.
Oh, maybe worse.
Maybe worse because it's got sugar.
Well, Bojangles got sugar in it too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, tons of butter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a nice. I think those are fun because you never know what's going to be cool. there.
When you first had takeout potluck, I was thinking like everybody bring some food, take some of it, and then leaves.
Oh no.
I was thinking of like the opposite of like everybody bring food, right. We're gonna all share it and then go eat at home.
Yeah.
Bye. That's like the introverts.
No, and then sometimes like, you go to a restaurant, get like appetizers, like someone will bring like some prosciutto or something. I don't know, but it's pretty fun though. It's a fun way to
get
do
like a bloomin' onion from Outback.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Something.
Yeah, it's a fun way to do takeout. I mean, it's a fun way to do potluck.
Yeah,
and it's easy because you're just swinging by on your way to your destination. And then finally, last night, Archer had a ton of homework. He brought back, so he's in 4th grade now, brought back front and back of a worksheet for homework, and then 3 other graded papers that his teacher allowed him to fix for extra credit that he didn't do so well on. And Shannon had to go sing at like a retirement home or something like that. So I was there and helped him through that. But man, from when we got back until he went to bed, it was just homework. And I felt so bad because not only was he just really overwhelmed with what he got wrong and trying to remember these mnemonic devices to memorize all the bordering states of Virginia and things like that. And like, not only was he stressed, but I had such a difficult time in school. I struggled hardcore in elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way through. I struggled hard, and homework was such a source of anxiety for me.
Yeah.
And I jokingly told Shannon later that I felt like I was having PTSD, and she was like, "You
kind of were."
Yeah, that's exactly what she said.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I felt. I felt like almost dizzy. Like I felt lightheaded a little bit, and I felt like I'm standing there trying to give him some distance, not breathe down his neck, but be there if he needs me. And I seriously felt like, I don't know. I don't ever get panic attacks, but in that moment, I'm like, I felt weird.
Like you're flirting with it. Yeah.
It felt weird, and it just, I have a terrible memory, and you know that, but I can recall feelings and emotions like photographic.
Yeah.
And like I could probably panic right now if I thought about like the first week of Archer being born. Oh my God. Like I very clearly remember that. But this he hasn't had this level of homework ever in his life, you know. So 4th grade's a new year, and it's starting to look pretty different.
That's when it gets kind of real. Yeah.
It does. And I was there for him. I helped him through, without giving him any answers. We got there, but man, it made me feel some surprising things.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for the way it made me feel. And man, it's
not fun.
I was surprised. And yeah, I know, like, this is just the beginning too. Like, this is still elementary school. When he gets into high school, I'm just going to die. Like, I'm not going to be able to handle that. So, man, luckily we've just got the one, so maybe we can afford some, extra help for math or something. But man, that caught me so off guard.
Well, especially math, like they do it very differently now than we learned it. So it's like I've not been able to help my kids with math very well.
He had a question like, write this number in expanded form. I'm like, what's expanded form? I don't know what that is.
Right, I don't know either.
And then thank you. So then he's telling me like, okay, to write 5,600 in this. You write it like this: 5,000 plus 6,000. I'm like, no, 5,600 would be 5,000 plus 6. And he's like, no, that would be 5,006. And I thought, and I was like, oh God, yes,
yeah.
Jeez, 9-year-old, thank God. Oh, so I'm already.
Well, I said the best way to learn is to teach. So,
I told him that. I told him that. He did not believe me. He's like, that's not a thing. I'm like, yes, it is.
100% it's a thing. 100%.
That's exactly what I told him.
Yeah.
Oh man, but no, I think that actually boosted his confidence a little bit. So
well, you never know.
That was unintentional.
Maybe
but
you're helping him more than you realize.
Yeah. So that is.
Oh man, that's rough.
That was a thing.
Yeah, I've experienced similar things, not in that exact same way, but like as my kids are aging, I had a kind of a rough time in middle school. My self-esteem was not great.
Yeah.
So as my kids are entering into middle school, some of the stuff they're going through is kind of like, oh, yep, okay, I'm feeling some things that are clearly like not fully processed.
I am certain I'm going to be there. It is tough being a kid, man.
It is tough.
Like they have no control over anything.
Nah, you have no perspective either.
No.
It's like everything you face is like the hardest thing in your life.
Yeah, their world is so small. So like these things take up so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
And anything can like shatter their whole everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah. Process of becoming an adult.
I know. So I'm just
forever being deeper disappointed about life.
I'm like
so curmudgeonly.
It really is, and it's if you're a naturally empathetic person, it's exhausting.
It can be exhausting. Yeah.
Like I feel for him, and I'm like I want to lay. I'm not even doing this. I'm not even in it, and I'm already exhausted.
Right.
Anxious and depressed just on your behalf.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding as the kids are getting older. It's more. It's exhausting in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm not like running around the house chasing after them, trying to keep them from running into traffic and stuff like that, like when you have toddlers. But the mental and emotional aspect of it gets so much more.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with things and you're like trying to coax out of them what happened at school, but you don't know the people that they're talking about. And I don't even understand half the words they're using, because it's all Gen Z talk, and I'm like, what does that word mean?
Yeah.
Finna. What the heck? Why don't you say gonna? Like, why are you saying these weird words? It's like, I'm sure we said the same kind of stuff.
When I was putting him to bed last night after he was all exhausted, I was like, hey, just so you know, your teacher is there for you. Like, teachers don't get paid a ton of money. Anybody who gets into that industry gets into it because they care. They truly want to work with kids. And he's like, well, no, my teacher gets paid a lot. She always says like, that's why she makes the big bucks. And I was like, and I said,
that's sarcasm.
I said, Archer, she's joking. She's like, no, she says it all the time. I said, yeah, I know, but she's kidding. Well, why would she kid about that? She's just trying to be funny.
It's a coping mechanism.
I know. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
I was like, no, she's not being serious, buddy. She doesn't make the big bucks.
Oh man, that'll change.
Yeah.
That's what middle school's for.
Yeah.
Middle school is where the sarcasm just like comes on like a tidal wave.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't get my kids to say a normal sentence. It's
after I screwed
snark and puns.
Oh no, I get plenty of that. Yeah. He just wasn't aware of that particular one. When I, acted like an idiot and didn't know what 506,000 really was, he, because it was about like a person, his name was like Ahmed or something, and like Ahmed wrote this as the same as this. Write it in expanded form to show that he's wrong, and so he crossed out Ahmed and wrote Drew.
Wow.
I was like, Archer, that's funny, but no, erase that. Like, don't.
He's trolling you.
God, any chance he gets.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, that's what's going on with me, man.
He gets that from his mom.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Oh, it's gonna be 2 against 1 in this house, Drew.
I know.
I don't know. Yeah, I had a slightly more eventful weekend, but nothing too crazy. I didn't go nuts. So it's funny, after we talked last week about trees and logs and stumps and all that kind of stuff, I was like, you know what? I haven't gone out in the woods in a while. And when my aunt rolled through for Labor Day, we walked my trails and there were like 7 trees that were down across the trails. And it was like, we were climbing over stuff and I was like, okay, I probably need to clean some of this up. So I was like, motivated after we just talked about logs and stumps. And I was like, I'm motivated to take some of these trees and get them out of the trail. And I did that for about 15, maybe 20 minutes before I got stung by yellow jackets.
Oh, no.
Yep. And I kind of knew it's like, this is the time of year where they're more aggressive towards the end of summer. I feel I'm going to say this every year as a PSA on the Pencast because I just live it. But as yellow jackets reach the end of the summer life cycle, they don't hibernate for their winter. They die off. I think the queen lives maybe, but the rest of them die off. So they just get super aggressive towards the end of summer, and they'll get vindictive. And lo and behold, I don't think all I had was the chainsaw, and I was just cutting up.
So you defended yourself with the chainsaw?
I did not. Well, it's like
just all flinging it around like Leatherface.
So at this point, I don't freak out because I've been stung so many times. I know the deal.
Do you say some 4-letter words?
Oh, I definitely said some words. Yeah, I did. It's a reflex.
Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, Brian's so wholesome all the time. I can't even imagine him."
Not when I'm dealing with yellow jackets. Let me tell you, that's when you'll see the worst of me.
Or the best.
But I'm wearing like long pants, chainsaw chaps. Like I'm wearing quite a bit of garb.
Chainsaw chaps sounds like some like boy band from Canada.
The chainsaw chaps. I like that. I kind of look like I'm in a boy band from Canada when I'm wearing them. But no, they're literally like blaze orange chaps.
Yeah.
That, anyway. So yeah, I felt like I might have gotten stung like on the back of my knee through my pants, by the way. Oh my God. But it's hard to tell sometimes if it's like some other kind of bug that's biting me or a mosquito, because mosquitoes love me and just eat me all the time. But the second time I got stung, I was like, oh, I know that feeling. Oh. So I didn't actually see it, but the combination of the one sting and then the second one was like right on my hip through pants, shorts, all that stuff. And it stung me and I was like, gosh, darn it. So I shut off the chainsaw and I was like, I didn't know if I had disturbed a nest or anything. So sometimes they'd give like sort of a warning shot. But I also learned that, they can travel up to a mile away from their nest. So it could have just been a lone guy that was just wanting to be a punk and stung me a couple of times for fun.
On a scouting mission.
Yeah. So I just dropped all my stuff and I was like pretty deep in the trails too. So I basically ran because I was like, it's going to do me no good to hang out here longer.
Right. Because you didn't know if it was a warning shot at that point.
Yeah, it was a second warning shot. So, and yellow jackets, they can selectively inject venom when they sting. They're not like honeybees where it's like they sting once and they die. They can sting you over and over and over again and inject venom randomly. So it's like some stings will be like, oh, that kind of hurts. And other ones, it's like, ow. And then it swells up and all that kind of stuff. So the second one was like the ow. And I was like, I know that feeling. So I darted back to the house, pretty hefty jog all the way back. And I was like, okay, I've probably gone far enough. I went to like my garage. I didn't go in the house. And then I was just kind of like taking a breath and I was like, okay. So because I like left all my stuff out in the middle of the woods and I was like, I don't know if it's going to rain. Don't want to leave that forever, but it's like, if it's a nest I disturbed, whatever. All that stuff's running through my head. And then I thought I saw something flying around and I was like, did this guy freaking follow me all the way here? So then I like ran around a little bit, ran into the house. I was like checking myself out. I was like, okay, I think I'm okay. And I'm like out of breath. And Rachel's like, what's going on? I was like, I got stung. She's like, oh no. And then lo and behold, sucker followed me into the house.
Into the house?
Thankfully, it was like disturbed by our kitchen light and was like trying to get up there. But it's not as big as you would think they are. But it was up there and it was kind of going around.
They do that.
Yeah, they like the light. And
yeah.
It was like going nuts. And I was like, grabbed our little hand vacuum we have that we call bug jail.
Yep.
Because we've had so many infestations with Asian lady beetles and all kinds of other things. We have a dedicated like hand vac for bugs.
Yep.
So I saw that thing and I was like, and I got it. And I was like, that sucker friggin' stung me twice, chased me down out of the woods, followed me into the house. And I'm lucky that because my kids hate bugs. Oh my gosh. If that thing had started flying around the house, they would have never forgiven me for that.
Archer would freak out too. The one time I ever had really yellow jackets in the house, they followed my dogs in. But they immediately went up. I had a fan in the dining area. This was like 2 houses ago, our rental house. And they went up to the fan light and like there was probably 6 of them. 6 to 8 of them. And they all like, they didn't go anywhere else, just feverishly buzzing around that light. So I was able to just smack them all to death.
Yeah.
So I just like pop, 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 pop until they were all gone. But I didn't get stung. It was a miracle. Dog's face swelled up, but
too bad.
Yeah, but yeah, they freaking love that light.
Yeah. Also, when you kill them, they release pheromones that attract more of them.
Oh, well, the door was shut at that point. But
yeah. So, but if you're ever outside and you're like trying to kill them, it will actually, they'll signal for more to come.
They're kind of the worst.
Yeah. Everything about them is terrible. So anyway, I hadn't had a run in this year.
Sorry.
That was my first run in this year. I've seen a few around.
Almost made
like
it.
in the spring, but
we had some at the front of the office last week.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Somebody slacked about it.
I missed that one. Anyway, so I'm trying not to be traumatized about it, but it's a thing. I know it's a thing and all that. So I'm kind of like, well, guess I'm going to leave those logs there for a little while longer because I know as soon as it starts to get colder again, they'll kind of die off and then I'll be good to go. So I haven't really done a lot of trail work this year so far. It's been freaking hot, plus Yellow Jackets. I'm just kind of over it. So I'm like, yep, I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
Wait a month.
Not worth it.
No.
The cons outweigh the pros.
It was literally like maybe 15 minutes. And I had like gotten all dressed and gotten all the tools and everything. I probably spent more time prepping and then I went out there, got stung, and I was like, tag on it. So anyway, that happened. But that was like right after we did the Pencast, like a couple hours later, I went and did that and I was like, that sucks. Fart. Okay. Little happier note here. So I've been talking about my bench that I've been building. Mm-hmm. I've been working on it more, but I'm literally just like sanding for days. So it's nothing exciting, nothing worth showing, but I'm sanding a lot.
Yeah, you're still benching.
Getting near the end of it. Made a couple more pen stands, the little wooden pen stands I like to make. We had a supplier visit us last week, so I got to make a couple of those. And now I'm like, my supply is kind of dry, so I need to make some more so I can be ready for next visitors that we have. Spent a lot of time working on my personal budget, which is super thrilling.
Next.
But yeah, I got kind of behind a lot in the last year or so. So I've been working on it in bursts, but like made really, really good progress.
I haven't worked on my personal budget in quite a while.
Yeah, I'm sure. But, it's not fun, but it is kind of in a way. It's fun when it's like you're getting through it. And
you're not going to convince me that there's anything
I'm not
fun
trying to,
about
I'm not
that.
trying to sell you on it. But anyway, so I did that. It took many, many hours and I'm still working on it. But so, yeah, I just did like that kind of stuff this weekend. Not really stuff that's that fun to talk about.
No, you're budgeting and getting stung.
Yeah, and then working on like mid-year evaluations.
Oh, come on.
for all my direct reports.
No.
Lots of video prep because we're shooting some videos this week.
Brian, one thing
this
fun.
This is like my
please,
whole week.
Please, one thing fun.
So the only other fun thing that I really had on my notes this week is that we watched High School Musical 3.
Nope.
And in my notes, I wrote, we watched High School Musical 3. The kids enjoyed it. I was also there.
Brian.
I had to bite my tongue so hard with my kids at this age with the stuff that they're watching because I'm like just rolling my eyes so hard. You can like hear it from across the room.
Oh, man.
Just with every little thing. I'm just like, pfft.
Did you watch like any shows or anything for yourself? Play any games?
No, not really.
Play any fun apps?
I play my Bloons TD6.
Okay.
Still rocking that.
All right.
I've been playing that for about a year now.
Okay.
So I did that a little bit, but
nothing on the Switch?
No,
Nothing?
I haven't touched the Switch in forever.
You never touched the Switch? Okay.
No, the kids are on the Switch. April's on the Switch.
Yeah.
I'll watch them play.
That's usually the case with me. Whenever I happen to pick it up, the only time I play it is usually when I get up before anybody else and the dogs are needing to go out. So I'll just I don't want to go into the other room because the dogs aren't allowed in there, and I'll stay in the living room. And usually the Switch is just laying on one of the side tables, so I'll play that. And I've been playing Yoshi's Island, the Super Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Super Mario World 2, where you have like the little crying Mario baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that one.
I think we had that one.
It's free on the Super Nintendo.
Okay, gotcha. We've got the retro pack or whatever the heck it is. Yeah, we got that. So,
all right, please do something less sad this weekend, please.
It's not sad. It was just like, it was a very adulting kind of weekend for me. That's all. But, we'll see. Maybe this weekend will be different. I don't know.
Set an alarm. Do something fun for Brian.
All right. I'll try to do something more fun than that.
Please.
I think, what else did I do? I'm literally kind of blanking. I think it was such a boring weekend. I just forgot most of it.
All right.
But
I guess you can't
sometimes.
You can't make a ramp every weekend, I suppose.
No. I haven't even used that ramp yet. It's been holding up though. It's doing really good. But yeah, I haven't gotten the RC car out yet. We'll get there. Maybe I'll do that this weekend. Maybe I'll do it tonight.
You can make a half pipe next time for your rollerblades.
Oh, that would be fun. I don't have any rollerblades. I had some and they broke.
Same.
They like wore out.
I had mine in my garage, and when I picked them up, thinking that I would bring them when we were moving, I'm like, you know what? I could throw these away because I haven't used them in years, but I'm gonna bring them just in case because you never know. Picked them up, and I guess like a jug of bleach had leaked or something like that, and I picked one of them up, and it had like fused itself to the concrete floor. I'm like,
oh, gross.
It's got all like crumbly and like, oh yeah, no. So
like all dry rotted.
Yeah.
I had it where it was like I had them in my shed, which gets like pretty hot over the multitude of summers that it's been in the shed. And I put them on and I was like, okay, they still kind of work. But then like, I guess the glue or whatever had just like completely deteriorated. So I went to skate like 2 skates and then the wheels just like totally fell off at the bottom. And I was like, well, I think these are done.
Yep.
I mean, I think Rachel and I got those when we were like 20 or something like that.
Well, I had mine since I did roller hockey in middle school.
Okay.
So they did not fit at all. They were like, they would crush your feet. But I know that my mom paid a lot of money for them, so I wanted to keep them.
Well,
yeah, they were like a size 9 or something like that.
Gosh.
Oh, they were extraordinarily painful.
Yeah.
But I was like, whatever, I can.
It's time to send them to pasture.
Yeah, no, they self-selected.
There you go. Anyway, that's what we got. That's what we had happening. So a couple of quick company updates, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. Well, we did publish a video this week of the Fountain Pen Hall of Fame Part 2. And I'm not going to say what it is in case you haven't seen it yet, but I think you'll be greatly shocked, especially you loyal Pencast people, at which pen was selected this time. It really comes out of the blue. Just warning you, you're going to be surprised. Anyway, we'll do some more of them, but I don't have another one of those in the wings yet. We're shooting some more videos this week that we're going to have published over the next like 6 weeks or so. And yeah, should be fun.
If you have any thoughts about what your fountain pen Mount Rushmore would look like, let us know.
Yeah, that would be helpful. We have a lot of candidates. That's part of the hard part is like we have a lot of options that I would like to induct, but it's just knowing like which ones to induct first kind of a thing. So anyway, and then also this is kind of a bit late by the time you're going to see this because it's probably over, but as of when we're publishing this video, we're doing a mental health half day at Goulet Pens, and we're doing a little team picnic, which should be kind of fun. Especially since COVID, we have not like seen each other's families really. Maybe like we did a company party, like was it March or April?
Yeah, that was the first time.
So we got to see some, but definitely not like kids and pets and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's been a while. So should be fun. So yeah, we'll be doing that. But anyway, that'll all be happening on our end. But hope you all have an enjoyable Friday too. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. Please leave us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Ask us questions so that we can answer 5 of them on the show, or 4 if we feel like it. Check out gouletpens.com for fountain pen, ink, paper, and lots of accessories. And subscribe, all those good things, to our channels so you can see what we're up to. My random fun fact, I was thinking about the businessy question.
Yes.
Thinking about the various business books and stuff that I've read. So according to an article written on Forbes, there are over 11,000 business books published every single year. And I know that kind of sounds like a lot, but the total number of books annually published range from 500,000 to 1 million books.
Could you write that in expanded form?
Every year. I couldn't. I don't even know what that is. And then if you include self-published books as well, it's upwards of 4 million books published.
Does that count like those Amazon like instant books that people are spamming these days?
I guess those would be self-published.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how up to date this was with like AI, ChatGPT stuff in the mix. It's probably 4 million a month at this point.
It's so easy to make an Amazon book these days.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, you know, there's a lot to learn out there. People have a lot of opinions.
You know what I think? I think that you should, in order to help motivate your sister to write her IT empathy book, you should start writing a, Brian's Guide to Getting Really Kind of Good at a Lot of Random Things book, where you can talk about like how to properly defend against yellow jackets, how to properly dispose of trees, how to evacuate Japanese Asian lady beetles from your home, how to throw knives, build ramps. Like you have gone, you've dipped your toe in so many rabbit holes.
Yes.
I think that you have enough content there.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody would know whether or not what they need is in that book. But you could talk about some stuff.
There would be something for everybody.
There you go. So I feel like you can get that done, man. Okay. Add one more to this massive statistic.
I have seen books like that. That's like, I haven't read it in a while, but it was something like, a survival guide type book, but it was just filled with absolute random like tasks, like random things to know how to do.
I think that
it was a little more focused than what you're describing, but I could go wide with it.
I think
could
you
just
could
cover all kinds of random things.
I think you could.
I'll give it some thought.
Like I can here's I'm gonna weld this trailer hitch and then go assemble a fountain pen and then build a ramp.
It is funny. That's kind of like what my free time is like.
Oh, I know.
It's like
we all know.
I'm gonna cook dinner and then I'm gonna help. I did help. I forgot to mention this. I did help Joseph start his Halloween costume. But it's very much Brian style.
Oh my gosh, is it wood?
Because I was saying, no, it's cardboard and duct tape so far. And we'll spray paint it.
Yeah.
He wants to go as, oh my gosh, it's a Sonic character. I can't remember which one it is, but it's an obscure one. Anyways, some kind of like mech looking thing.
Okay.
And he like wants to put some effort into it, but not a ton. And I'm like, I'll match your level of commitment to this.
Well, the first time I went all out for one of Archer's costumes, I made him a cardboard Mandalorian costume.
Okay, cool. Yeah. The only problem is his like character he chose is like everything is round. So I'm trying to make round things. So it's lots of cutting notches and bending and then taping and
the corrugated stuff, like you can cut slivers out of between the corrugations and it helps it curve really nicely.
There you go. Yeah. So I'm starting on that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Looking forward to some updates there.
Yeah, we'll see. I literally have like a picture to go off of and I'm just like, all right, buddy, we'll try and make it look like that.
That's going to be awesome. He'll love it.
I'm sure it'll be good. And it's like early enough where we got plenty of time to screw it up and then redo it and fix it, whatever. Anyway,
that's what I've been doing the last month.
That's right. I thought about you like making it out of foam. I was like, that would be a much better costume. But I was like, I can't go down that route because then like I'm going to have to do most of the work.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to do that.
It's surprisingly easy. The cutting at angles is the most challenging part.
Yeah.
But other than that, all the gluing stuff he could do.
Yeah. Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
If the cardboard's a hot mess, then maybe we'll go the foam route.
Cool.
We'll see. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. Thanks for watching. We enjoy spending time with you all. And we'll catch you next week. Right on.